Hey guys, and welcome back to another charcoal drawing demo. Today we're going to be doing a drawing titled Heartbreak Hotel, and this drawing is part of a new series of artwork that I'm doing these days. It's inspired by cinematic Japanese aesthetics. So yeah, we're going to get right into it, and basically what I'm doing is I'm being a lot messier in the beginning stages of my charcoal drawings now. I'm experimenting with using a lot more splatters and brush strokes and effects right from the beginning rather than doing all of them in the end. And then I'm layering the figure on top of all that with my charcoal sachet. So I'm taking my time, making sure that everything I'm doing is not permanent, because I want to be able to erase. So the scene is basically a woman in a hotel or a bar situation in a hotel on a piano. So we're trying to nail the proportions from the beginning, trying to set the tone for that scene. I'm not worried about it being perfect from the beginning, but I do want to keep it close. I want to get it as close to the reference as possible. I want the reference to guide me into making smart decisions so that I'm not, frustrated to where I have to erase permanent areas or have to worry about all that. So I want to get it as close as possible in the beginning. So I'm going back and forth. I'm using the pencil, I'm using the vine charcoal, and I'm using my eraser. I'm making sure that I'm sneaking up on things. Not getting too detailed too fast, but also keeping things fresh and spontaneous looking. With this particular piece, the feeling is super important. Upon the viewer looking at it, I want you to feel her emotion. I want you to feel the scene. So to do that, it needs delicate marks, deliberate marks. So while I want to keep things spontaneous and fresh, I also want to be exact in the areas that I want things to look clean and tidy. So basically with the paintbrush you saw me use in the beginning, the idea there is basically using watercolor or Japanese style sumi art. So I want to fuse that with charcoal, and I love that. I love those effects. I love I love that look. Here, just adding bits of compressed charcoal in the piano area, because I know that area is pretty dark. So I feel comfortable using the compressed charcoal to make it stand out. But I also understand that there's reflective areas in the piano as well. So I don't want to make everything dark. I want to keep it relatively light in some areas. So we're adding the keys, adding some more, reinforcing some more darks in the piano area, adding some highlights. Creating this lamp. Probably the most difficult part of this piece is keeping everything fresh. I really didn't want to make everything super rendered and super tight. I wanted to keep things loose and fresh, so it looks spontaneous, so it looks like it was done effortlessly. And for me, that's super important in artwork. It's super important that when you create art, it's not too tight. It feels effortless. And I'm super inspired by John Singer Sargent. When you look at Sargent's paintings, a lot of his paintings and the brush strokes are all effortless. They look like it was done in one stroke. So I like to translate that in my paintings, but also in my charcoal drawings. Keeping everything fresh and in a state of flow. Filling in some background work, adding in this bartender, trying to make him not too, it's a challenge. I want him to be there, but I don't want him to be too detailed. I don't want him to be too, I don't want the edges around him to be too harsh. Like, I want him to blend into the background so that she's the focal point, that everything behind her blurs out around. Basically, like when you take a photo with your camera and there's that like depth of field. So it's important we nail that blurred look in this drawing. So my reference photo, I'm drawing from my phone as always, but I also have my laptop on my right side, and that's for like a larger overview of the reference. Whereas on my phone, it's more of like a small little zooming in and out in the tiny detailed areas to make sure I nail them. So you can see I go back and forth from using my pencil, using the paintbrush without paint on it, just using the brush to blend in areas. And also using the blending stump. I feel like using all of them combined, they all do different things. And you can see what they do. Like, you can see what they do in the drawing. I'm focusing on her dress, giving it some highlights, some contrast. So focusing on the darks and making the darks dark and making the lights lights to give it that extra sheen that it needs. Now we're going back to the bartender, adding some detail to his face. Obviously, we don't want to, as I say, I'm trying not to make it too detailed. I want him to naturally blur in the background, but I also want him to look human. I want him to look proportional to where he makes sense. It's not just a roughly rendered figure. And here I'm adding what is actually in Japanese letters, and they actually mean something. The Japanese is the title of the drawing itself, Heartbreak Hotel. I didn't want to add some ambiguous neon signs and letters. I wanted it to actually mean something, and I figured it makes sense to give it the title of the drawing. So now I'm just refining some areas, adding some glass. Obviously not being too detailed with the glass, adding suggestions of glass, because we want to give that depth of field look. So naturally the glass will be blurred out. Because now I'm just getting the paintbrush, dipping it into charcoal, using that to refine some areas, using that to add bits of charcoal painterly looks in some areas, just to refine and give it that like flowy brush stroke that I mentioned earlier. And then splattering, adding some splatters, using the acetone to give it that bubble effect. And yeah, we're super happy with how this drawing came together. It took a while, but we were able to condense it into like a 10-11 minute video. But I just wanted to give you the impression of how it, like, in the moment of me working, how it felt to put it together and my vision. And yeah, I hope you like the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know down below any questions you may have, and I'll be sure to answer them. It's been Victor. Until next time, see you soon.